Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you'd like to submit a story, feel free to do so in the comments down below or on my email. Alright, now let's dive into today's story. It all started as a joke. Isn't that how these things always start? You think it's all fun and games until suddenly it's not. Looking back, I can see all the little warning signs we ignored, but in the moment we were just a group of friends out for a good time. I guess we were asking for it last summer, my friends and I decided to get away from it all. There were 5 of us: me, Eric, Ryan, Mia and Jess. We crammed into Eric's rusty old SUV, which groaned under the weight of our camping gear, snacks and an ambitious supply of cheap beer. The plan was simple: find a remote cabin, disconnect from the world and have the kind of carefree weekend we'd all been craving. The drive out was half the fun. Ryan, the self-appointed class clown of the group, kept us entertained with terrible jokes and exaggerated impressions of every bad horror movie villain you could think of. Eric, ever the responsible one, kept rolling his eyes but couldn't hide his grin. Mia and Jess sat in the back seat, alternating between singing along to the radio and teasing Ryan for his antics. As for me, I was just happy to be there, soaking in the easy camaraderie that made everything feel lighter even under the blistering summer sun. The cabin we rented was as remote as they come. No Wi-Fi, no cell service, and the nearest neighbor was a good mile down the road. It was perfect, a small wooden structure nestled in the middle of a dense forest, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets to one another. In the wind at night, the stars were so bright and close that it felt like you could reach out and touch them. We spent the first evening laughing around a campfire, roasting marshmallows and telling ghost stories we all pretended weren't creepy. The trouble started on our second day. We decided to go for a hike, aiming to explore the woods and maybe find the lake we'd heard about from the cabin's owner. The trail was overgrown but easy enough to follow, winding through groves of ancient trees and patches of wild flowers that seemed almost too perfect, like something out of a painting. Ryan, of course, couldn't resist straying off the path whenever he thought he'd found something interesting. It was one of those detours that led us to the graveyard. The place appeared out of nowhere, like it had been waiting for us. One moment we were surrounded by the endless green of the forest, and the next we were standing in a clearing filled with crumbling tombstones. The air felt different. They're heavier, colder, and eerily silent. Even the birds, which had been chirping non-stop, seemed to have vanished. Mia said, breaking the silence, "This is creepy." "Nah, it's awesome," Ryan said, grinning. "We've officially found the set of every horror movie ever made." The tombstones were old, some so weathered that the names and dates were barely legible. A few were tilted at odd angles, as though the earth beneath them was trying to reclaim them, but one grave stood out. The stone was clean, its lettering sharp and clear, as if it had been carved yesterday. It read, "Here lies Thomas Whitaker, who laughed himself to death." Ryan burst out laughing. "Are you kidding me? That's real. Someone actually wrote that." He bent over, clutching his sides as he exaggerated his laughter. What was he laughing at? The bill for this gravestone. I couldn't help it. I laughed too. We all did. It was absurd, and in the middle of that eerie graveyard absurdity felt like a welcome relief. Mia pulled out her phone to snap a picture of the stone, while Eric and Jess joined in, posing dramatically next to it as if they were reenacting poor Thomas Whitaker's final moments. But Ryan, of course, had to take it further. He threw himself onto the ground, clutching his sides and gasping for breath like he was in the throes of some comedic fit. "Oh no," he cried. "It's happening. Someone save me. I'm laughing myself to death." That's when we noticed the old man. He appeared at the edge of the clearing so silently that none of us saw him approach. He was tall and wiry, with skin like aged leather and eyes that seemed to pierce right through you. His clothes were plain, a worn flannel shirt and dusty jeans, but there was something about him that made my skin crawl. "Show respect for the dead," he said, his voice low and brawly. "Do not laugh at their fate." We froze. His words hung in the air, like a physical weight, and for a moment no one moved. Then Ryan, ever the fearless idiot, broke the tension. "Come on, man," he said, still grinning. "It's just a joke." The old man didn't respond. He just stared at us, his expression unreadable. Slowly, he shook his head, then turned and disappeared back into the trees as silently as he'd come. We stood there for a moment, the laughter gone, replaced by a heavy, uneasy silence. I glanced at Ryan, expecting him to crack another joke, but even he looked a little shaken. Still, as we left the graveyard and made our way back to the cabin, we brushed it off. It was just a weird encounter, we told ourselves, nothing to worry about. We should have listened. We didn't talk much on the way back to the cabin. The energy we had earlier, the jokes, the laughter was gone, replaced by an awkward silence. Even Ryan was quiet, which was rare enough to be unsettling. The only sounds came from the forest, the occasional rustling of leaves, the chirp of crickets, and the rhythmic crunch of our boots on the trail. It wasn't oppressive, but it wasn't comfortable either. None of us wanted to admit that the old man had gotten under our skin. Even Ryan, usually the first to brush things off, seemed a little less sure of himself. The cabin came into view just as the sun dipped below the treetops, casting the clearing into deep shadow. Its wooden facade, charmingly rustic during the day, now looked weathered and cold. We dumped our gear on the porch a little more hurried than usual and filed inside without a word. It wasn't until we were sitting around the fire pit later that night, beers in hand, that the mood started to lighten. Eric threw another log on the fire, sending sparks spiraling into the star-filled sky. "All right," he said, breaking the silence, "we need to forget about that creepy guy. Let's make this trip fun again. Who's got a good ghost story?" Mia groaned. "Seriously, after what happened today, you want to tell ghost stories? Come on, Mia." Ryan said, his grand making a comeback. "Don't tell me the old man spooked you. He was just some cranky local trying to scare us off. Probably gets his kicks freaking out tourists." Jess nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. "Yeah, he was creepy, but it's not like he's following us or anything." That was enough to get everyone talking again, one by one. We shared the worst, cheesiest ghost stories we could think of, trying to outdo each other with exaggerated scares and bad impressions of creepy voices. Ryan leaned into the role of showman, adding theatrical flair to every story. By the time we got to his turn, we were all laughing again, the tension from the graveyard slowly ebbing away. All right," Ryan said, raising his hands as if to quiet a roaring crowd. "I've got a good one. It's about this guy, Thomas Whitaker. Heard of him?" Mia groaned again, but the rest of us laughed. Ryan stood up, adopting a dramatic tone as he gestured at the firelight. "Thomas Whitaker, who laughed himself to death. Legend says he's still out there wandering the woods looking for people to share the joke with. But if you hear his laugh," before he could finish, we heard it, a faint laugh, so quiet we almost missed it. It came from somewhere deep in the woods, just beyond the edge of the firelight. It was so sudden, so unexpected, that we all froze. "Very funny, Ryan," Jess said, rolling her eyes, but her voice was unsteady. "You can stop now. It's not me," Ryan said, holding up his hands. His grin faltered. I swear the laugh came again, louder this time. It was slow and wheezy, like someone struggling to breathe between chuckles. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, sending a chill down my spine. I glanced at Eric, who was staring into the darkness, his jaw tight. "Maybe it's a coyote," Eric said, though he didn't sound convinced. "They make weird noises. Sometimes coyotes don't laugh." Mia whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but her words carried an edge of fear that made my stomach tighten. For a few minutes we just sat there listening. The laughter circled us, moving through the trees. It wasn't constant. It would start and stop, like whoever or whatever was laughing wanted to keep us guessing. At one point it sounded like it was right behind me. My heart slammed against my ribs as I whipped around, my eyes searching the shadows. There was nothing there, just darkness. "Okay, this isn't funny anymore," Jess said, her voice shaking. "Let's go inside." We didn't argue. Eric stomped out the fire, his movements quick and tense, and we hurried back to the cabin, locking the doors behind us. Once inside, we tried to laugh it off. It's just some animal, Eric said, forcing a smile. Or maybe there's a campground nearby. Could have been other hikers messing with us, but we all knew it wasn't true. The sound wasn't natural, it wasn't human either, not exactly, and it definitely wasn't over. That night as we tried to sleep, the laughter came back. I had just started to drift off when I heard it again, louder now and more distorted. It didn't sound like it was outside anymore. It seemed to echo off the walls of the cabin, coming from every direction. At once I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding as the sound grew closer and closer. I could hear Ryan shifting in the bed across the room, muttering something under his breath. Jess let out a nervous laugh from her room, but it sounded forced. None of us wanted to admit we were scared. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the laughter stopped. The silence was worse. It was heavy, oppressive, like the cabin itself was holding its breath. I didn't dare move. I didn't dare. That's enough for today. See you tomorrow. Have a horrible day. Bye.